You're listening to Now I've Heard Everything, conversations with the icons of our time.
Before the internet, I was a slacker in my early 20s, having graduated college. I resembled the movies. I resembled the articles about Generation X and what are we going to do? And then the internet happened.
Conservative digital media pioneer Andrew Breitbart. Today on Now I've Heard Everything, I'm Bill Thompson. Well, when they write the history of digital media, one name will stand out prominently. Los Angeles born and raised would-be comedian Andrew Breitbart. He got his start in journalism writing a humorous piece for his high school newspaper in the mid-1980s. And just a few years later, Breitbart was instrumental in developing the Drudge Report and Huffington Post, and of course, ultimately, Breitbart News. Along the way, he was often criticized, sometimes even vilified by mainstream media for his contrarian, often combative opinions. In 2011, Breitbart wrote a book called Righteous Indignation, and that's when I had a chance to have a few minutes with him. So here now, from 2011, Andrew Breitbart.
Are you angry? I mean, people seem to read this book. They look at the title, they look at your picture, they say, this guy's mad.
Well, I have two components to my personality. Most people have an array of human emotion, and I have two modes. One is jocularity. I'm weirdly jocular, inappropriately jocular, and that's my default position. But like Bruce Banner, when prodded enough, I become righteously indignant. And that's why I chose the title, and I go into media environments, and people with whom I disagree are very upset that I've isolated the mainstream media as a huge problem in our culture, worthy of scrutiny. The way that the mainstream media scrutinizes Wall Street or the political class, I've focused my journalism and my professional career on acting sort of as the Upton Sinclair of the mainstream media, the Morgan Spurlock of the mainstream media. And since they take it so personally that they exist in a pristine environment that shouldn't be judged, they don't take kindly to what I do. And so it leads to a lot of confrontations within the media where it creates the perception that I'm angry because I've often used the war metaphor, but it seems to be that there is a media war that exists out there, and I'm a little bit general in that war with group bloggers at my websites, and I'm a little bit Pied Piper trying to get people to join this war because I believe that the media is the most important thing in the world. I do. I believe that they are able to create the American narrative, and the American narrative is skewed by them to lean one way politically. In a center-right nation, the mainstream media, Hollywood, academia, controlled by people who are left of center, are slowly, gradually moving a center-right country that believes in American exceptionalism into what I believe to be something more akin to a European socialist model.
So I'm gathering the jocular side of you can't easily deal with that.
No, it upsets me because I believe in more voices, not less. I have in the book, you get to find out that I created the Huffington Post for Ariana. It was my roadmap that she followed. And
so how much of the $105 million did you get then? Or?
I got out of it very early, but I made enough that it was the seeds for my own websites, Breitbart.com, Breitbart.tv, big government, big journalism, big Hollywood, big peace, and all those. So I don't regret that I didn't make millions of dollars from that. But I will say this, the Huffington Post is a left-of-center venue. Yet I'm right of center. Why would I endeavor into that world? Because I believe, again, more voices, not less. When you look at people on the left, it seems as if they wish to shut down Fox News. It seems as if they want to shut me down. They got me kicked off of ABC News on election night, and ironically, they got me kicked off of the Huffington Post front page. there seems to be a totalitarian streak on the left. If you go into the former Soviet Union, if you go into Cuba or Venezuela, where people want to impose collectivist egalitarianism, it seems to me there's a tendency towards wanting to silence debate. And I knew that if I was going to create right of center media, and that I was going to use the argument more voices, not less, I thought that having the pedigree of creating a place that is left of center would grant me some level of credibility in that world. Unfortunately, because I've exposed the paradigm and explained the paradigm in the book Righteous Indignation, while I save the world, I explain I explain the paradigm, and that paradigm I call the Democrat media complex. It is the natural, organic alliance of the left and the mainstream media. It is just the nature of the beast. Manhattan-based, Beltway, DC-based, and Hollywood-based, and London-based sensibilities lean skew to the left, and it's the default position. It's the factory setting in the mainstream media, and my goal is to upset that order. It's a media revolution that has now been joined by millions of Americans who now have the ability to become the media.
Do we have a fundamental problem in America, though, that historically, at least in our generation, we've been told the news media are objective, and if you read something in the newspaper or if you see it on network television news, it's objective journalism. It's not. It never has been, is it?
It's never been that way, and I believe, I'm not sure that there's a point in time where you could find the Saul Alinsky or the genius who came up with this false construct of objectivity. But I think that false construct of objectivity now is a tool, a weapon. It's clearly a tool or a weapon that the left can use, because when you're being presented the facts, people accept it as this is the truth. Mm-hmm. And it's a way to lull the average person into believing things that there actually is a contrary point of view. And I think that the beginning of the doubt at a mass scale that the media is objective was when Rush Limbaugh in 1988 became a national phenomenon. At the end of the day, he's a media critic, and the 20 or so million people that listen to him every week are faced with a juxtaposition between the ABC, New York Times, CBS, NBC point of view juxtaposed with his point of view, and having perspective has opened so many people's eyes to realize, wait a sec, this isn't objectively true. This is an opinion presented as being, fact and truth.
I think what a lot of news consumers fear is that there will be such a chasm eventually that you'll have to read two newspapers. You have the left truth and the right truth, or the liberal truth and the conservative truth, and that there is no truth anymore. All you're getting is opinion.
Well, I think that the J school types are mostly worried about their jobs and losing their power. And I think that you can just point to overseas, to England, where the papers there are very vibrant. Fleet Street. It's a big business. Everybody's engaged in what's going on in the day-to-day in the UK, and it's based upon the concept of, you've got left-of-center newspapers like the Independent and the Guardian, and you have right-of-center ones, conservative ones, or more conservative ones, such as the Telegraph, the Times of London, and the Daily Mail. Right now, we're just in the adolescent phase of this new world, of this new media world, and there's just a lot of bickering going on back and forth. There's a lot of, oh, Glenn Beck, you shouldn't even exist, or, Keith Olbermann, how dare you? And I just look at it and I say, look, I think they're okay over there in England. They're honest about it, and as a conservative, I devour the Independent and the Guardian, despite the fact that they're on the left. I don't think that simply because you're on the left and you write an expose on Goldman Sachs that there's something inherently wrong-headed about it. It's just that the left is better at being a watchdog against business, whereas the right tends to be more of a watchdog against government. And I want to exist in an environment, in a world where I'm free to consume all of it.
Well, I mean, I know I enjoy reading HuffPo, Daily Beast, Daily Caller, Drudge, I mean, the whole melange of things, because really that's the only way you can kind of triangulate what my truth is.
Well, that's what I do. I would say the primary diet for me is the news wires, the Associated Press, Reuters, Agence France Presse, and my websites started off at Breitbart.com in 2005 with only the news wires, because I realized that ABC, CBS, NBC, and the cable news networks create the perception that they're these unbelievably large behemoths that are everywhere doing everything. And once you go into and see how the sausage is made, you realize that all those pancake makeup news readers and the people with the great distinct voices on the radio are simply reading
thank you.
wire copy.
That's right. So now we're back to the Upton Sinclair part of you, and then showing us how it's really made. I did want to ask you, Mr. Peabody, put us on the Wayback Machine for a moment. Before the internet, before Al Gore invented it, what did you want to be? What did you want to do?
Before the internet, I was a slacker in my early 20s, having graduated college. I resembled the movies. I resembled the articles about Generation X and what are we going to do? And I resembled the nihilism. And then the internet happened. At best, what I wanted to do was perhaps be a comedy writer. Again, I'm 90% jocular, 10%. If you Google Andrew Breitbart on YouTube, you'll see me on shows like Red Eye or Bill Maher or the old Dennis Miller show, and you can see that I'm a ham, and I'm willing to do absurd things to indulge that part of my public persona because I so yearned for it when I was a kid. So I think that the mainstream media is one of the big problems that they have with me is that they want to put me into a box and say he's the angry conservative. But I'd say that if you look on Google, you'll see the majority of the stuff out there in video form is me putting on something that's more close to performance art. It's a mixture of journalism with everything that I learned growing up in Hollywood.
Well, there's a pretty fair number of people who are still convinced Limbaugh is just an act, that Beck is just an act, that Ann Coulter is just an act, that these people really can't believe, at least so rabidly, these things. They're just saying that for effect, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, first of all, being entertaining and consciously so does not mean that you're fake. It means that you're trying to deliver the message in a way that people will listen to it. And I resent that argument certainly against Rush Limbaugh. I mean, that's an outrageous argument. This man started doing this 23 years ago. You can't talk and analyze the New York Times from a contrarian standpoint that reflects millions and millions and millions, that opened up millions and millions of people's minds. I mean, why would he even do that? There was no market for what he was saying before. How could he have figured out that this is what the audience wanted? It makes no sense. That shows how closed-minded liberals in the media are, is that it reflects what many in flyover country believe, and they're basically saying to that audience, they can't possibly believe what Rush Limbaugh is saying. So that shows, that's a confirmation of their bias. They think that liberalism is neutrality. They think that it is the default setting. They think that it is the factory setting, and that's why they're fighting so hard, because they really do believe that they are objective. This is the most exciting time in the history of media. It's just that sourpuss face that Katie Couric has is because she just lost her job. There are a lot of people who are set to lose their job who are reporting on the most exciting time in the history of media. You are the media now. The barrier of entry is negligible. Hannah and James of the Acorn scandal did that takedown of Acorn for $1,400, and that was a multi-city investigative project. And so anybody can do it. A flip camera, an internet connection, a computer, and a modem. You're golden.
Get your flip camera now before Cisco runs out of them.
Yeah, it's fantastic though. It is so exciting every single day. It doesn't even feel like work.
Andrew Breitbart died in 2012 at age 43 from heart failure. Now you can get your copy of Righteous Indignation by Andrew Breitbart by tapping the link in our show notes or by going to our website, heardeverything.com. We may earn an Amazon commission if you make a purchase. Heardeverything.com is where you can also hear my 2011 interview with conservative firebrand Ann Coulter.
It's a peculiar way liberals talk. Conservatives are far less prone to the sloganeering and the talking points. What the Tea Partiers, by and large, are doing is reading the Constitution and talking about the Constitution.
And my 2013 interview with Dan Bongino.
We think elected officials have the power because we elect them, but what you don't realize when you're behind the scenes is they don't. Who really has the power, Bill, is this series of cronies, bureaucrats, paid-off insiders.
And, of course, we post new episodes of Now I've Heard Everything every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. And thank you so much for listening. Next time on Now I've Heard Everything, she and her family were refugees from war-torn Sudan. But one day, literally a tap on the shoulder, someone said, would you like to be a model? Turned her into a supermodel. My 2007 interview with Alec Weck.
My mother, she was like, you are absolutely not going to be a model. Are you daft? You're so going to school. And what about your scholarship? So I wasn't going to throw that away for empty promises.
That's next time on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson.